Hi, this is Group 2. I'm Ben Juarez.
I'm Amber Harris.
Iris Jackson.
Carrie Westoven.
And Mario Ramirez.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about Walt Whitman.
Before we understand Walt Whitman's work, we need to understand where he came from. Whitman was born into a very large and hard-working family of 8 children, him being the second oldest. Soon he had to learn. So Whitman attended a public school, which was very, very diverse. He not only learned from school, but also by going to museums, libraries, and even attending lectures. Finally, since Whitman enjoyed writing so much, he became an editor for Brooklyn Daily Eagle in 1846.
Walt attended school for 6 years, worked as an intern for a lawyer as his first job, and worked for many printers and papers such as the Long Island Islander and the Patriot.
So what is transcendentalism, and what does it have to do with Walt Whitman? Well, simply put, it was a new form of American literature with its main goal at encompassing soul, knowledge, and a divine inspiration that Americans had. And Americans had a new nation, and it was independent, so they felt that they wanted to make their literature independent from English literature in England.
Why was Whitman's work historical? Well, first we have to acknowledge that he broke many boundaries in poetry. An example, some other poets during that time used the same rhythm and stanzas for the poetry, and he didn't. Secondly, he used unusual words to describe many things within his work, such as rotting leaves and debris. Next is he was very open to write about death and sexuality. Some included prostitution and homosexuality. But there's been a lot of research from the years that his work could signify that he himself could have been a homosexual, but it's still under investigation, so this remains a mystery. And last but not least, he was coined the father of free verse.
Famous works by Walt Whitman. His first one came out in 1855. It was called Leaves of Grass and was very successful. Since then, 6 more copies of this work were printed off. His other famous work was O Captain, My Captain, which is a poem that talks about Abraham Lincoln's life and his tragic death. And here's a clip.
My captain, our trip is done. The ship is weathered every crack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near. The bells I hear. The people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh, heart, heart, heart of the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead.
And there was a little insight of Walt Whitman.
Okay, this is a quote to sum up who Walt Whitman was. This is what you shall do. Love the earth and sun and animals. Despise riches. Give alms to everyone that asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy.
Devote your income and labor to others. Hate tyrants. Are you not concerning God? Have patience and indulgence toward the people.
Take off your hat to nothing known or unknown, or to any men or number of men. Go freely with the powerful and uneducated persons and with the young.
And with the mothers of families, read these leaves in open air every season of every year of your life. Re-examine all you have been told at school or church in any book.
And dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem, and have the richest fluency not only in words, but in the silent lines of its lips and face, and between the lashes of your eyes, and in every motion and joint of your body.
And that concludes our presentation.
Overall, I think it was good. Definitely some things you can work on. Just some concerns that I had. On your first slide has your names written. Just was a little bit confused why only the first 2 names had your last names. There was no duplicates of any first name, so I was just a little bit confused. It was Ben and Ben's last name Carrie, but then Mario, Iris, and Amber, just the first names. Not really sure, just something you could look over. Careless mistakes that just get, overlooked. Those things do make a difference, though. They're very distracting when you're making a presentation. Like, for instance, if there was a misspelling or something, it's very distracting. I'm not paying attention to what you're saying. I'm paying attention to those little kind of things. So those do make a big difference. Another concern I had was the introduction. It makes it very easy for the reader to understand your presentation if you tell them, I'm going to tell you this first, this second, and this third. And you follow in some kind of structure, rather than just facts thrown out there, whether in chronological or in any kind of random order. Grouping it into different sections make it much easier for the reader or the author, the reader or the audience to understand what you're trying to say, but also follow so there's some kind of flow. The PowerPoint slides, a lot of them had too much text, way too much text. You need to cut that down significantly because it just looks jumbled up there. It's supposed to aid your presentation, not be your presentation. Ben, I thought you had a really good explanation of transcendentalism. I can tell you weren't reading, but you actually knew what it was and you were conveying that. It was a much better description of transcendentalism than in your paper. And I was kind of concerned about that, but I thought your presentation on that was much better. And lastly, the conclusion, I felt the conclusion was weak. You didn't really leave the audience with some kind of lasting impression.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with mainly what Bree was saying. The quote at the end, I really like the use of quotes, but my biggest pet peeve is when somebody reads a quote. And especially something like that. That was a really powerful quote by Whitman, and you guys broke it up into 5 different parts. Like, I feel like you guys should have known a little bit more what you're saying instead of reading. Like, that was the part that you guys referred to your note cards the most. And that's one of those things you should be able to, if you're trying to make a powerful ending with that, you shouldn't be like reading it because anybody can read straight like that. Once again, like she said, there wasn't really like a real introduction as to what you guys are going to talk about in your presentation. You didn't set up any organization with that. I like the use of technology in it and actually being able to see, it made it a little bit more personal being able to see him actually perform the thing. But I know you're short a little bit for your presentation, and that was the same thing I had concerns with in your paper, is that you guys you didn't cite it right with MLA, and you had your poems spaced out double space, and it made your paper a lot longer. So your paper didn't even make the length requirement.
Your paper was terrible, and I'm going to tell you why. And I don't know if this is lack of experience. I'm being just honest. And you will definitely get more. I don't know what your majors are or anything like that, but depending, you will have plenty more of composition English classes to brush up. But I think that with 5 sets of eyes, the mistakes that you made just should not have been in this paper. There was a lot of passive voice, and I don't know if you know the difference between active and passive voice, but active voice would be like, Bree hit David in the face. Passive voice would be, David got hit in the face by Bree. And the only time you're going to want to use passive voice is in very limited circumstances, and mostly in persuasive writing when you want to de-emphasize something. It certainly would not be in an informative paper like this. You want to stick to active voice. There's actions, he's doing something. Another thing, never, ever, ever use the first person in a paper. You never say, I think, I believe, our country, we. Don't use it. In a formal paper, in an academic setting, you cut that out completely. Because readers don't care what you think or you believe or anything like that. They don't.
I just want to ask you one thing. I have one point to make. Tell me if this is a sentence or not a sentence. Visiting museums, libraries, and attending lectures. Sentence or not a sentence? Okay, put it as a sentence on here. If you had 8 hours to work on it, like that's something, you don't capitalize something like that. There's not, that's not a sentence.
Dave basically hit the points. There's a lot of fragments. There's no structure, or if there is, very little. The whole MLA stuff, you guys kind of missed the boat on a handful of things. But that's pretty much it.